Rule motion, Dr. Julian Huppert.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I beg to move that leave be given to bring in a bill to enable local planning authorities.
Can I appeal to honourable and right honourable members who are leaving the chamber, who don't wish to hear the presentation by Dr. Huppert, to do so quickly and quietly so the honourable gentleman can present his motion, which we await with eager anticipation. Dr. Julian Huppert.
To enable local planning authorities to require the granting of planning permission prior to the demolition of or change of use of premises or land used or formerly used as a public house or local independent shop. To enable local planning authorities to require the granting of planning permission if premises or land will be used for a supermarket and for connected purposes. Mr. Speaker, I am sure that the whole House would agree that we all seek to protect local communities and the essence which holds them together, that makes them different from other communities. We know that our villages, our towns and cities are becoming ever more alike. There are ever more chain shops and supermarkets, turning every high street progressively into a clone town. And that vital community hub, the British pub, is closing down across the country. It is vital that we keep and support our pubs and local independent shops, otherwise we risk losing them forever. And the bill that I seek to introduce today would help local communities to protect their shops and pubs. It would tweak planning law only slightly to rebalance the playing field in their favour. Technically speaking, it would allow the use of locally determined use classes to separate local independent shops from chains and supermarkets from other grocers, as well as new constraints on changing use away from pubs. And critically, it would be up to the local council if they wish to do this. Every area is different, and no council would be forced to do this if it was not appropriate for their area. Now, I certainly don't claim this will fix every problem faced by local shops and pubs. Independent shops face many wider problems, some identified in the Portus Review. For example, they face institutional landlords who will in some cases not even consider renting premises out to an independent shop, but only deal with national chains, as for a start-up in Cambridge, Cafe Sicilia, at the moment. Supermarkets have the economic might to drive out local shops. And pubs have challenges from the sale of cheap alcohol in those supermarkets, as well as predatory pub codes, demand for housing and much else. But we can take a stand and hand power to local people to separate out independent shops from chains, supermarkets from grocers and pubs from estate agents. So what exactly is the scale of the problem? Let me start with pubs, many of which are absolutely core to their communities. Now, I believe that in Cambridge we have some of the greatest pubs in the country, such as the Eagle, where Watson and Crick announced they discovered the secret of life, DNA. But in reality, it's the local community pubs, those that don't have a famous story to pull in the punters, that will benefit the most from local control. Many fleeting conversations over a drink between academics and entrepreneurs have created partnerships, founded companies and made Cambridge into the city that it is today. We have over 80 pubs in Cambridge serving very different communities, some local, some attracting people from across the city. Great pubs such as the Maypole, the Empress, the Cambridge Blue, St Radegund and the Devonshire Arms. But over the last 3 years, over 20 pubs have closed in Cambridge. And this is replicated nationally, 12 pubs closing every week. This is not simply some cold fact of life which our constituents should have to accept and deal with. And many of these pubs are profitable. The Flying Pig near Cambridge Station is immensely popular and doing better and better every year, especially since it became a free house. Built in 1832, it was one of the first buildings on Hills Road, but it's threatened with demolition to be turned into flats. In my old ward of East Chesterton, the Green Dragon is now the only trading pub. The local Penny Ferry, Dog and Pheasant and Haymakers are all boarded up, and local councillors struggle to find planning grounds to protect them. And rural pubs face similar threats. When the only pub in a village closes, that is a huge blow for the residents there, as well as posing a risk for drink driving. Because pubs are ultimately a responsible place to drink. Landlords can control excessive drinking, and rural pubs can quite literally keep whole villages on the map. And pubs are also valuable economically. On average, each pub injects an average of £80,000 into a local economy. And pubs in Cambridge alone employ just under 1,500 people, many of them young. As well as the intangible well-being that pubs promote, and local councillors have a duty to protect. So pubs provide a valuable service to local communities beyond just the purely economic. The government's national planning policy framework recognised that fact. There is still more needed, and we should help people to protect their pubs. And much the same is true for independent local shops and the high streets that they create. Nationally, 12,000 local shops closed in 2009. And on every high street across the country, you can see many of exactly the same shops. Chains of coffee shops, clothes shops, betting shops. Now, chains have many advantages, economies of scale, of course, and they can afford better lawyers and get cheaper rent. And there's nothing wrong with having some of them. But too many, and our high streets become identical clones of each other. We lose the variety that makes our towns and cities special and different from each other. Our shopping options become ever blander. More and more, the range of options available diminishes as we see the demise of the specialist, the different, the quirky. Some high streets have already succumbed and could be anywhere in the country. Others fight on. Bridge Street and Mill Road in Cambridge are good examples and well worth visiting. They work because they work together to look after their areas and have strong local groups to help each other. But across the country, the traffic is largely one way. Independent shops turn into chains, but they rarely go back the other way. This has economic effects as well. The proliferation of chain shops is often a false economy for local residents. At their worst, they can temporarily sell below cost to force independents to close, but when they're the only shop in town, prices can go back up again. And more of the takings are also sucked away from local people. A 2009 report from the New Economics Foundation found that twice as much money is kept in a local community if people buy locally than if they buy from a chain. And there is, of course, a particular issue around supermarkets. They are growing strongly in number. Just in Cambridge alone, there are no fewer than 15 Tesco's. Now, supermarkets in and of themselves are not a problem. People choose to shop there. But an individual supermarket or supermarket chain can utterly dominate a local economy. Monopoly powers apply nationally, but the residents of Mill Road in Cambridge care very little whether a supermarket has a national monopoly. They care immensely, however, if it is the only local place to shop. If a supermarket has a local monopoly which eradicates a local high street, much love for its diversity. And currently, planning law simply does not allow for a discrimination between Abdullah Rain's Alamein grocery store and the Sainsbury's plan for the other side of the road. But residents know that they are a very different proposition. People know what it means to live in a free market economy, and they appreciate that if shops are unprofitable, they cannot stay open. What I am talking about today is giving councils the power to stand back if they wish to and ask, would this supermarket represent a local monopoly? Would it actually decrease choice and competition? Would it ultimately produce a worse place to live? I asked my constituents and others more broadly via Twitter to suggest which bill to propose today. This issue was suggested by very many of them. It has received support from many residents, local independent shops across Bridge Street and Brill Road and elsewhere, and from pub landlords in Cambridge. An online petition and a paper one have received hundreds of signatures. And nationally, this bill has secured the backing of CAMRA, the Campaign for Real Ale, who have been immensely helpful in this process, to Save the Pub all-party group, the Local Government Association, which represents all of our councils, and a strong cross-party group of MPs. This government has shown some commitment to localism. It's been previously observed that Britain is one of the most centralised countries in the Western world. And it's been a pleasure to welcome some of the devolution that we have seen over the last few years, including that contained in the Localism Act. There is still far more to do. And when that Localism Act worked its way through these houses, I and a number of colleagues fought for more local power. The so-called Cambridge amendments put forward in the other place, and which I have spoken of in this place, would have given powers comparable to that which I am proposing today. It was not accepted, much to the disappointment of Cambridge City Council who proposed it, but perhaps this approach will be more successful. No. Mr. Speaker, in the words of CAMRA, we need to give communities a much greater say over the future of valued local services, such as pubs. This proposed bill would go a long way to protecting local pubs and the communities that they serve. This is appropriately Independent Retailer Month. Let us, in Parliament, do something to mark that. I urge all honourable and right honourable members to support this motion and also to shop locally and to sample their local pubs. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move.
Order. The question is that the honourable gentleman have leave to bring in his bill. As many as are that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Who will prepare and bring in the bill?
Caroline Lucas, Tim Farron, Greg Mulholland, Simon Wright, John Leach, Sir Peter Bottomley, Graham M. Morris, Jim Dowd, Andrew Stevenson, Nicola Blackwood, Jonathan Reynolds and myself, sir.
Dr. Julian Huppert.
Local Services Planning Bill.
Second reading what day?
26th of October 2012, sir.
26th of October 2012. Thank you. We come now to the main bill.